So we put the chair, I don't plan on saying that. I'll let you speak.
Yeah, I'm speaking, boy, my kids are speaking parts.
Yeah, that's fascinating, that you lived there, that must have been, I'll put, here's some more of those stories.
Yeah, my daughter, I went down ahead of time, my daughter stayed with her grandparents. And I was looking at schools and they had only one spot left in first grade. And they said, you know, they had to interview my daughter. She wasn't gonna be here for 2 months. And I said, you talked to her on the phone? She said, well, I never interviewed her child on the phone.
They've got your truck, yep,
So they
yep,
called her and.
got that.
First-
Yep, and the only thing for yours is, as you well
They
know,
accepted her. And she got accepted in Spanish.
that
She
changed.
could hold her with the
At home,
Spanish
yeah,
kids.
before we got there.
Bilingual school.
Because we looked at, I told her,
Yeah.
I do know,
you might want to mention
I
that,
do know
for the
that,
people at home.
like my cousins, with their kids, tried to send them to the English. That was a status thing.
Yeah. She went to Baldwin and Granada.
And and they told me, they said, and if you were on the island and you could speak English, you were Puerto Rican, you could speak both, you got the best jobs.
Yeah.
I remember them telling me, I was thinking, it's kind of fascinating.
Impressed that she had no accent to the Spanish now. They tried to teach.
Oh, I saw it. Oh, there he is. Right there. Moment.
Good afternoon. The Outer Banks Beach Club Association, Inc. is HOA meeting is hereby called to order. To start off with, we'd like to first, Chair would entertain a motion to dispense with calling of the roll. Is there a motion to that effect, please? Dispense with calling of the roll. All right. Patty Wagner makes a motion. Second? Your last name, sir? Bennett? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're taking care of that. Let's get on to certifying the proxies. Madam Secretary, Ms. McKinley, would you give us the proxy count, please?
The number of interval present by proxy is 1,405. Number of interval present in person is 23. Total number of interval present is 1,428.
Thank you. Now, would you please give us the proof of notice of the meeting, please, Madam Secretary?
I undersigned certified that I have caused to be made October 22nd, 2020, the notification of the annual meeting of the Outer Banks Beach Club Wine Association to be held on December 5th, 2020 at 1 p.m. at the Resort Clubhouse, 1110 South Virginia Trail, Kill Double Hills, North Carolina. Said notice was sent to all owners of record.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the minutes for the 2019 annual meeting. For the people at home who are live streaming, we provided in the proxy your opportunity to vote on approval or disapproval of those minutes, and of that, 945 approved and 4 disapproved. So does everyone here have a copy? Is there anyone who doesn't have a copy here? Good. The chair will entertain a motion to dispense with reading of the minutes, please. Can I have a motion to that effect? So moved. Sarah, your last name? All right, Patty seconds. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank you. I assume, has anyone here who has not read the minutes as yet? Seeing none, then is there a motion that we accept the minutes as presented? Patty? Second, Mr. Bennett? Okay. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are carried.
Hey, Ron, looks like we have a hand up over here.
Yes.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum. Yes, I thought did you say that initially? Yeah. The proxies, we have to have 820, and we have close to, 1,500 plus. So yes, ma'am, good question. We do have a quorum. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up here today that could. Obviously, with the pandemic in place, it's difficult for all of us and our families. For those of who are attending this meeting virtual through YouTube, we're certainly happy to have you on board. It's an opportunity we haven't had before to make available for those people who would have liked to attend the HOA but could not, now can live stream it through YouTube, and we're happy to have you on board with us in that regard. The protocol for the meeting obviously is face mask. We all must wear face masks. That includes the nose when you wear it. If at any time you're making presentations up at the mic here, right behind the cameraman there, if you would please, you may have to lower or raise the mic to your benefit. And also, if you think you can't talk without the mask, obviously you can remove it to say what you need and put it back on if you would please. We appreciate that. The process for YouTube live stream owners and attendants for asking questions, I will defer that. Sherry, would you give us a quick overview for that, please? You need a mic. You step up and just grab. This is for the people who are at home who would like to ask a question during the course of this meeting. Sherry's going to give you a quick overview of what you need to do. Sherry?
Any questions or concern can come across the YouTube chat. Right now, we have 10 people watching. And I will write them down and give them to Mr. Fowler to answer.
So that's YouTube chat.
Yeah, and there's a screen on there for you. Sorry. And there's a screen for the chat box that you can see.
Thank you, Sherry. At this time, I'd like to introduce the board members. For those who have not met them, are new to an HOA meeting. From the far right is Kenny Roberts, one of our board of directors. He's the treasurer. Wendell Graham, he's our vice president. Karen McKinley is our secretary. Joe Frentis is our board member. And of course, Ed Stamey on the end is our general manager. And Sherry Calvert, she is our administrative manager, who was just up here at the podium. The management company could not be with us today. Capital Vacations, Corey Humble. Back in October the 4th, when we had our normal board meeting, we had to make the determination of how we were going to proceed with an HOA meeting given the pandemic issues. And so we decided it was best if we can postpone it into December, hopefully that it would get better than worse. Well, guess what? It didn't hardly get any better, but the board decided we would make use of the Ramada's venue here with regards to the conference room so that we could accommodate more people with the social distancing requirements, and we're happy that we did that, as well as it gives the opportunity for us to do it virtual through YouTube. At this time, I will turn it over to our general manager, Ed Stamey, for the resort operations report. Ed?
Thank you, Ron. Hello, everybody. Glad to see y'all See a lot of familiar faces out there. Not a lot of familiar faces, but familiar faces anyway. It's been an interesting year at the Beach Club. We've had a lot to deal with. Early on, we worked on our renovations back in the spring and in the winter months. We did our normal routine 5-year rotation on 4 buildings. This year it was building 9, 11, 12, and 13 around the pool. And we did the normal things, new carpet, new drapes, living room furniture, interior furnishings, and appliances as needed. Most of our appliances are in pretty good shape. We also installed new mattresses, box springs, bedding, as well as other unit inventory like nonstick frying pans and USB charging stations in these units. A lot of people ask for ceiling fans in the bedrooms. We've been hearing that from a lot of owners. This year we kicked off, and that's 4 bedrooms. We have ceiling fans in all the bedrooms. So we'll continue on with that from this point forward. This has also been our first year with the new TV, internet, and phone system that was and it's not been an easy process especially in the beginning with nobody here and no feedback from owners, basically in the spring, and then we had to really work the bugs out. And it's been interesting, and it took a lot of hands-on training. But I think right now we have a really good system that we can all be proud of. We also finished up the ADA upgrade at the clubhouse. If you noticed, and you probably haven't because not too many people have been over there, but we have a new handicap wheelchair ramp that's to code. And now as you come up to the doors, you have automatic push button sliding glass doors. The entry doors slide open for you, which is really nice. And we also completed the bathroom upgrades in the clubhouse. Back during the summer months, we built some storage areas adjacent to the walkways going out to the beach to store the umbrellas and beach chairs. So that gives us pretty quick access to get those out to and from the beach without them having to tow them over the dunes. Early on in the spring, we were pretty much gearing up for a normal year, and then COVID hit, and we all, was wondering what does that mean for the beach club? And we started off implementing some things like worked really hard in housekeeping to get as much clean and as many units cleaned and deep cleaned as much as we could before they closed the beach down, before they implemented travel restrictions. So worked really hard on that. Maintenance worked hard on getting, the HVAC units checked and all those spring projects completed. We worked hard on training the staff on the safety and how to use personal protective equipment. And we stocked up on cleaning supplies and paper products and masks. And I'm burning up in this one. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to take this off for a second because I can't talk with this thing on. So anyway, we implemented daily temperature checks for all of our employees. We investigated cleaning measures and solutions to help protect owners and guests so that we could clean the units properly and keep everybody protected. Maintenance finished up their normal spring projects, bringing the pools online, checking out the air conditioning equipment, and the other outside projects such as painting the exterior of the buildings. We also installed hand sanitizing stations all around the property, around all the common areas, around the elevators, the bathrooms, places like that. We installed plexiglass shields at the front office with the girls to protect our office staff. And we implemented curbside check-in for all of our owners and guests, which as the owners pulled up or guests pulled up, they would let us know. We pretty much knew anyway. They were called ahead. And we'd have the packets ready, keys in the packets and everything. The girls in the office would take them right out to them. They wouldn't have to get out of the car and come into the clubhouse and do anything. And we also worked really hard to make it easy on them if they needed games or DVDs or anything like that, just call and we would deliver them to the units. So after the travel restrictions were lifted and some of our housekeeping cleaners decided not to come back, you know, they were nervous about working and everybody was really nervous about working. And we had a lot of people coming in from different places. And so we lost some housekeepers, and through the summer months, if we hadn't had foreign exchange students, we would have really been struggling. We struggled anyway. In fact, all those girls over there in the office had to go over and clean units. And without them and the foreign exchange students, we would really be in sad shape this summer. But we got through it. Some of the units probably could have been cleaned better, no offense. But they did a great job. Those girls had experience. They know how to clean. It's the foreign exchange students I was worried about. But you know, they did a great job, and I'm really proud of all of them. And we got through the summer. And in fact, we have a couple of girls still cleaning on the weekends. So we really need to thank our staff. I mean, they worked all summer really hard to make sure everybody was safe and as well as keeping our staff safe and going over on the weekends and cleaning units. Maintenance is out there trying to help people with anything that they could. We kind of curbed them going into units as much as possible unless it was something that was really, really necessary. We tried to fix maintenance issues after people checked out. We had a couple of close calls and a couple of scary situations, but we were lucky all summer that nobody got sick. We haven't had any cases at staff level with any of our employees. We have had some owners, I mean, not owners, but guests that were sick. Later on, they call and tell you after they leave. And but we had some issues, so we need to appreciate, show our appreciation to the staff and what a great job they did all summer. And through all of this, we managed to maintain our RCI Gold Crown status for next year, so we're proud of that. And hopefully we'll get through this COVID pretty quick and get things back to normal next year. And that's it. I'll let somebody else talk about next year.
Good question, Jim.
Any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, for those who are live streaming, if you have questions for Mr. Stamey or anywhere during the course of this meeting, please use the chat icon on your live stream, and Sherry will pass them on to us, and we can hopefully respond to them here. And if not, we will definitely follow up with an email to get you your answer. At this time, we'll move on to the financial reports. First up will be we're going to get a little out of order here. With the pandemic and all that we've had, obviously it's important to all of us as a board as well as owners that we be aware and cognizant of what was the impact of COVID-19 on the association. So with that, I'll give you a presentation over here and I'll open it up for questions. Okay, this is a summary of, I'm sorry, yep, you're right. white microphone, Kenny.
Take it off. You take it off.
Can I take it off?
I got it.
You can see this is the first time we've had to do this. Obviously, the COVID, the pandemic hit us, as we all know, in mid-March thereabouts, and it lasted through like the 19th of May thereabouts. And we had several questions from owners, email, trying to find out, well, what do we do with all the extra money we saved? Well, yes, there were some savings, there's no question. But along with that, there were some expenses we otherwise wouldn't have incurred. And to the right here, you'll have a chart that we'll go down through here, and we'll ask questions if you have any, to give you an overview of the approximate impact of the COVID-19 on you as owners and the financial status of the association. So to start out with revenue, maintenance fees current year, we took a hit of $4,000 approximately. Maintenance fees current being you and I, when we pay our maintenance fees, which were due on or before January 31st, right? Well, there were some people, as always in the past, who couldn't meet that deadline. And so it kind of slipped on into March, April, May, June, or whatever. But yet they did pay them ultimately, okay? And they had to pay late fees and all the things that go along with that. So obviously, when it shut down, we quickly saw that, hey, we lost this revenue because there was nobody paying maintenance fees that typically, in previous years, we saw some maintenance fee payments in March, April, May, right? And so overall, we did see some catch up later in the year, which was a surprise to us because we knew or suspected that the pandemic was going to have a long-term impact, and it will have a long impact in some areas, and on some people more so than others, no question, because some people lost their jobs, et cetera, got furloughed and didn't have revenue coming in, so they had to, you put food on the table or you pay your maintenance fee. Well, that's a simple answer. You put food on the table. But we did see a little bit of a catch up later in the year, which was a surprise and a welcome surprise to all of us. So we took a $4,000 hit roughly in terms of people that never did pay the maintenance fee that historically before during that time period or later in the year did pay it, okay? The second item is maintenance fees prior years. And that's for people who, for say 2019, 2018, 17, 16, they got behind. They couldn't use the unit until they pay their maintenance fees. That's one of the requirements. If you're got to be current in your maintenance fees to have occupancy access, right? And so we saw also a hit there that there weren't as many people stepping up and bringing their older account current again. Now, is it definitive science? No, but from what we've seen with the trends we've had, we projected we had about a $3,000 loss in revenue for that line item. HOA inventory sales. When people ask, as I said initially, well, what kind of savings did we have? Well, we took a heck of a hit March, April, May, especially in May. May, we normally bring in like 16 grand in HOA rentals. And of course, we took zero. Okay, so that was a big hit. And so that was a major concern. Boy, early on in the pandemic, we figured, well, when the year's finished and done, we're probably going to be 50 grand in the hole, 40 or 50 grand in the hole. But fortunately, as we get through this, you'll see we didn't. And so we took a hit for HOAs, but later in the year, which was a real surprise to us, especially like October, the occupancy rate has shot up, regardless of the pandemic. The rentals have shot up. In October and November and December, we expect to see the same. So what we lost in March, April, May for HOA rentals, we are recouping in October, November, and hopefully December as well. So we take less of an impact than early on in the year. We thought we were really going to be behind the 8 ball revenue-wise. And at that point, we told staff, the board and the staff got together and discussed, we need to start back in March, April, we need to start looking at line items in the budget and start holding back what we can put off, only do the necessity things. And because we don't know what the impact's going to be as the year, as we get further in the year. And so the staff did that. And Kenny will get to that part of it in a little bit. Delinquent owner rentals. we took a little bit bigger hit there. We took $7,000 loss in revenue on delinquent owner rentals. Well, what are delinquent owner rentals? Well, delinquent owner rentals are for John Doe and Murray Lou, whoever has not been paying their maintenance fee for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, have not been paying it. They cannot have access to their unit. So what we, the board, do, we rent out their unit where we can. And we take those revenues from that rent and apply back to their delinquent account. So in essence, that's more revenue for the association. It's paying down the delinquent owner's account as well as recouping some of the otherwise, which would be a current maintenance fee payment, but we otherwise wouldn't have had. So following that, we have late fees, interest fees, and they're just a spinoff of some of these other items that we have. Obviously, when you have late fees and interest fees, obviously, if you're not making payments, then you're assessed, and those people, when they do pay their late maintenance fee, they're assessed late payment of 25 and interest and so forth, and that shows up as revenue for us. Well, obviously, they weren't making the payments back up here in the earlier part, so we figured we took approximately a $2,000 hit and shortfall in revenue on that item. Merchandise sales, obviously, our recreation department, we couldn't go forward at all. Other than January, February, and half of March, the recreation has been shut down. Due to the constraints of the recreation facility in the clubhouse, as we all know, we just can't maintain social distancing to provide those programs we've done in the past. So obviously that took a hit there. We didn't get the merchandise sales that we otherwise would get. Recreation activities, that goes hand in hand with that as well. We couldn't put on any recreational activities, okay? And so we took a hit there. Now, Kenny will also cover here in a minute on the 2020 budget. We did go out and purchase some games, et cetera. You saw, may have seen out in the property area for kids and so forth, and adults as well, that could, make available to them while you couldn't come into the clubhouse, try to help some fashion. So we, recreation did purchase some game type things and put them out in the areas of the resort property. Housekeeping fees, obviously housekeeping fees is pretty much tied in with RCI. When they come on board, then they have to pay the cleaning fees, et cetera. Well, obviously, that got cut back because of the pandemic. So we took a $1,000 hit there. And miscellaneous is just a bunch of other little hodgepodge small stuff. So in total, the total revenue impact, we figure we lost around 26 grand and some change, 2,600. So now we get down to the operational expenses. Obviously, we had some savings because we didn't have anybody on property March, April, May, right, for the most part. So electricity should be down, right, obviously. And I think that's where the questions were coming from the owners, obviously. Well, what did we do with the savings? Well, we saved some money. Yes, you did. You saved in electricity, you saved in natural gas and water, as well as some other items we'll get in here, but they were obviously offset by the revenue shortfalls we just went through. So electricity, we figure we saved around $17,000 in electricity bills, about $700 in natural gas, and water about $5,500 we saved. Laundry supplies, the laundry supplies now inclusive of all the stuff that Ed and his staff had to do regarding this pandemic, the hand washing stations, the protocol things we had to do in laundry, in the rooms, et cetera. That adds up to about 10 grand that Ed and staff had to spend there just to cope with the pandemic. Okay, try to keep all of us as safe as we can. Recreational activities, obviously, we took, that's the 3 grand I'm telling you about where we went out and we purchased some of that. Is that we went out and purchased some games and stuff that you see out throughout the site. Board expenses, obviously, we have held our board meetings virtual. We've been using Zoom, and so therefore we didn't have the costs associated with coming down here like we're doing today to do our standard board meetings as well as the HOA meetings typically. But so we do have a little bit of savings there of $4,400 in savings on the board of directors and what's associated with putting on a meeting. Printing and mailing, obviously we put out more cost in some printing and mailing, notices throughout the property, a cumulative of all kinds of printing aspects that we had to do along with the mailing to advise people on the COVID-19, and as well as we had to put out a we had to put out a board decision where people who had week 12 through 19, who through the efforts of emergency management by Dare County shut down the Outer Banks, you couldn't even come on to the Outer Banks unless you lived here, then those people were denied access just to come look and use their unit through weeks 12 to 19. So the board, through its policy, determined that we would offer up those people affected in weeks 12 through 19 to use an HOA week later in the year as far out as 2021 or 2022, excuse me, to get back the week that they were denied access to. Now, that doesn't include people who may have space banked. Obviously, they didn't qualify because they space banked it anyway. But typically, that was what that was all about there. So that encompassed some mailing aspects in that regard as well. Salaries and wages. We had, as Ed talked to, obviously the staff that we had on property from mid-March through through May, we furloughed 6 housekeeping people. And so this is associated with their salaries, their FICA, their workers' comp, the state and federal taxes that go with that salary. We saved approximately $16,000 in that regard for those 6 furloughed people. Now, you ask what happened to the rest of the staff. Well, the rest of the staff was busy. We used this opportunity of the pandemic, not that we wanted it, but we did make some use of it in that we were able to do a lot of maintenance issues that typically we otherwise would have to just do it scattered here and there as the unit was became unoccupied. So we were able to do a lot maintenance-wise to catch up there in that regard. And finally, the rest of it is miscellaneous items throughout the budget that we projected we cost us about $4,000 for a total operating savings of $27,000. So the net of savings versus the shortness of revenue, we saved approximately $700. And if you had been part of our meeting back in March and April for the board and the staff, we were talking, man, this could be $50,000, $60,000 that's going to kill us here, guys. And fortunately, the revenue has panned out much better than we thought. So are there any questions regarding the pandemic and the impact, estimated impact? Okay, thank you. Then at this time, I will turn it over to our treasurer, Kenny Roberts, and he'll give you the 2020 budget and the 2020 year-end forecast and give you some reasons for differences. Kenny? Yeah.
Okay. So like Joe, I'm one of the new kids on the block, and this is my first time as being treasurer. So me crunching the numbers, how I present them, you know, it's a work in progress. So maybe if you have something that you want me to include next time I do this, please let me know and I'll beef up my presentation for next time. But I'll go with what I got this time. So I want you to, what Ron just talked about were strictly COVID numbers. They did, what I'm going to talk about is the full budget from January to our projected end of December. So let's see if I can do this. Look at my notes, hold the mic, and a point or two. Okay, so I want to start down at the bottom, because the bottom we've got, oh, and for the people online, I want to let you know that the numbers that we have here on this chart have been updated from the package that was sent out to those people online. So if your numbers are a little bit different, it's because you have October numbers and we have November numbers. All right, so we've got.
Hey, Kenny, if also we might add that the differences he's talking about is the forecast column.
Yes,
The
forecast, because the budget didn't change. Budget doesn't change through the year. So the first number we want to look at is down to the bottom to where we are coming in at about 74,000 under budget, which Ron talked about. 27,000 of that typically came from the COVID savings. Then that leaves us about 47,000 that really comes from our staff and being good stewards of our money. They've made it so that they're managing it, their expenses to make it so our budget was able to come in at 74,000 under, which I think is great. Appreciate all your hard work over there. So going back up to the top now. First column is 2020 budget. The second column is 2020 forecast with November's numbers. So up at the top, our maintenance fees were we've gotten about 13,000 less than what we had projected on them from a budget, which isn't terrible, but that still means 13,000 as homeowners associated we aren't getting. So we really wanted to be able to bump that up, and hopefully with next year with COVID and people not having funds in this year, that it doesn't have a bigger impact on us next year. But that is something that we, as a board, will be watching. Other revenue. So we're 38,000 under there. 13,000 of that for the year came from sales and rentals. 8,000 of it came from prior maintenance. People didn't pay their maintenance for next year, this year, as much as we had projected. We projected 18,000 and they only did 10. And then about 4,000 is from marketing and sales, of course. People go into the clubhouse, buy the t-shirts and hats and stuff like that. The pools they didn't have the shack open to where you could go and buy stuff from the shack, so our sales were down. That brings us down to a total revenue loss of about $51,000. Good news is our operating expenses were much less. So Ron talked about the utilities of what's having about 18,000 there that we've saved because of the COVID and people not being here. The housekeeping total was right on. And you would think because of COVID and we didn't have so many people here that we didn't have the expenses. But on the back end of COVID, we had all the other expenses about getting the hand sanitizers, the hand sanitizer stations, getting all the Clorox things, cleaning the units differently, and all the supplies for that. So that pretty much turned out to be a wash. Maintenance came in at 86,363, which was 16,000 under, which is great. Thank you, Ed. A lot of that was due to their being good stewards and not getting as much stuff. They did more labor maintenance than buying materials for maintenance. Administrative costs were down about 24,000. Big one was salary and wages. That was down 30,000, of which Ron talked about. I can't remember what number you had, Ron, for that. Your salary and wages were
Oh, yeah, it was
16,000.
Yeah.
So that covered through April, and you heard Ed talk about it. That through May. You heard Ed talk about it that after May, we didn't have the number of people to help from a staffing perspective to cover everything that we typically would have. So without those people here being on a salary, it made it so that our overall numbers were much better for that. And that's where we got that 30,000 of savings. And that 30,000 is a combination of both the salary, wages, and payroll. And then leases were down 17,000, and then unit reimbursements were down 17,000. So our total operating costs were 125,000 less than what we had budgeted. Are there any questions? Any from online? All right, well, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Our next line item on here on the budget is the 2021 operating and reserve budget overview. And typically management would give us this overview, but lack of having Mr. Humble with us today, which we fully understand, I'm going to take that on. Should take but a couple of minutes. We'll open it up for questions. jump into what we talk about. It's a learning process. Before I jump into what we'll be looking at, we'll be looking at your 2021 budget and your 2020 budget. And we'll discern what were the differences and basically why in the significant areas. That's what we'll look at. And when you look over to the far right, the 2021 budget versus the 2020 budget, I'll be keying in on the significant differences that you see there, okay? But before I get into that, I want to revert back to Kenny's comments and Ed's comments regarding cleaning at the resort during, excuse me, the pandemic, especially when the occupancy rate started jumping up in June, July, August. As you may or may not recall, the administration back when this thing first reared its ugly head, they made the determination, well, we need to stop people from coming in from other countries to try to help keep down this pandemic. And so the administration imposed that these students from foreign countries, you had these visas, I forget exactly what the title of the visa is, but in other words, they had visas where they could come in for the summer work. And so the administration shut that down. Well, guess what? We had several of our cleaning staff in the summertime, students that came and did an excellent job for us that we lost. And so Ed and Jimmy Calvert and staff, what are we going to do? Well, as Ed indicated, our stupendous administrative staff over there filled in. I mean, rolled up the sleeves, and while they had administrative duties, they knew we had to get these units from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., especially as the summer came on, June, July, August. What are we going to do? We got to get these up and running. And so they did a tremendous job. Some of them, it was learn as you go, and obviously they did well. And I think we really owe them a round of applause, if you would. Thank you, thank you. Having said that, we receive from time to time, and we're always want owners to get involved with the business of the association. And so we get from time to time email letters, comments, etc. Why this, why that, what's wrong here, what's wrong there, and we respond to each and every one. If you have a question or something, we will get back to you. We prefer that you do it, document it, either a letter or an email to the staff, and we'll obviously get back to you. But what I'm coming up to is that we had several comments later this year with regards, and during to the summer and later part about cleanliness. And as Ed said, could we have done better? Maybe, yeah, sure. But we got through what we had to get through. Just like all of us, you have a budget, you get through the best way you can. So with the administrative staff, we were able to get in there and get those units ready by 4 o'clock. Or maybe in some cases, in the heat of the summer, it might have been a little later than that, but for the most part, it was. Was it 100%? Absolutely not. Would we like a better result? Absolutely yes. But we did what we could with what we had. And so, we respond back to the owners with the comment basically that, hey, we did what we could with what we had. Did you find some crumbs under the table? You may have, but we got through it. So I can't thank the staff enough for that. Thank you. All right, let's get into the 2021 budget versus the 2020. As you can see, the first line item, which you should have in your handout there, okay? This chart is basically for the people live streaming. You see that we have about 12 grand over and above what we experienced in budget-wise for 2020 for maintenance fees current. And typically that's not unusual. I mean, obviously, as we all know, we have expenses that are going to go up every year, electricity or cleaning towels or whatever may go up. So obviously there's going to be a little creep in cost. Are maintenance fees ever going to go down? I wish they would, but if someone tells you they are, then I'd really look at that answer very hard. But nonetheless, as you can see at the bottom of the page, we only went up 1.9% over 2020. 1.9%. And I personally think not that we were a part of it, but I think we did the best we could. We knew that people were going to be short in revenues going forward with the pandemic. We need to things we'd like to do, yep, but we got to cut back because we don't know the long-term hit on this pandemic. So the board and staff took a conservative approach in their budget preparations going for 2021. Next item is other revenue income. We took $28,000 we saved there, and basically, if I may here, I'll give you an overview of that quickly. That other revenue is based on, I need three hands. There are cumulative types of income under miscellaneous other. And it, as you saw in the budget there, it was worth 91 grand, and we able to cut that back roughly $28,000. And basically, what happened was in maintenance fee prior years, we cut it back 8 grand. We knew we weren't going to take a hit there somewhere, right? Again, the board took a conservative look at revenue and expenses for 2021 because of the pandemic. We didn't know the long-term effect. And if it turns its head quickly with this medications that we're getting ready to take here soon, hopefully, maybe we'll be ahead of the curve easily going forward. In other words, we'll get more revenue than we think we'll get. Delinquent owner units, we figured we could take about a 12 grand hit on that versus what we did back in 2020 budget. Late charges and fees, credit cards, that's a small item. Merchandise sales, we're going to have some savings. HOA rentals, we figured about 5 grand. We're going to take less than what we did 2020 project, being very conservative again. HOA sales are not what we want, obviously, and we're looking to really thrust forward in that. We've been looking for a project broker. If you're familiar with North Carolina real estate requirements, you must have a project broker to sell 1 unit a week. And we've had issues. We had MVP, if you may recall, that we had as our sales company last year, and we cut ties with them because they weren't performing. And it's been a chore since that time to come up with a replacement. And I can assure you, this board, that's the number one priority we have with right now, is getting these HOA sales out there. And basically, that's the hit in terms of other revenue, which came up to a total of 16,000 and some change, reduced for total revenue gross. Capital reserve. Each year on capital reserve, we put aside from your maintenance fee money for ensuing years for capital reserve projects, rather than come to you with a special assessment. Now, Ron, you guys had a special assessment before when we did the decks or the elevators, we came at you for $75 a unit. Well, that's true. Back then, we found out when we got estimates and so forth, there's no way we could bridge the gap to do what we need to do to add those 4 additional elevators. So, and I can assure you, I know some of the owners either here or at home felt like, well, hey, I already had an elevator. Why should I have to pay for it? Well, elevators are common property per the bylaws. We don't have any control over that. Everybody pays their fair share, whether you use it or not, okay? So obviously we couldn't go out and just charge the people that didn't have an elevator. We had to charge everybody equally, okay? So what we had to do was we've been taking $200,000 out of your maintenance fee, cumulative each year, and putting it in what we call a CRF, Capital Reserve Fund. That Capital Reserve Fund is a 30-year plan that we have laid out there, and that's $6.5 million over 30 years, okay? In round numbers, 6.5 million. So that we project, we got to replace the decks again, we got to replace the roofs, we got to replace the the elevators, we got to do this, we got to do that, that otherwise we would come at you for a special assessment if we weren't having in place a capital reserve fund. So be assured your maintenance fee is hopefully, unless there's something that is just going to be off the charts that we didn't expect, this capital reserve fund for 30 years is going to cover it. Now, Ron, why did we go from 200,000 for 2021? We went to 215,000. Well, we went to that because the study that's ongoing, we don't just do this 30-year plan and put it on the shelf. We look at it every year to make sure those projections 30 years out look reasonable. Well, what we found out was the HVAC system. The HVAC system, the SEER ratings on all this stuff change out constantly. And you have your air handlers and your exchanges and all that, and they've got to be compatible, and you can't just replace one or the other. You have to replace them both. And those associated costs raised a red flag for us and said, hey, guys, if we don't raise it, we're going to be in trouble out here 15 years or 20 years or whatever. So that was the purpose of raising it to $215,000 as part of your maintenance fee. So that's a plus. Any questions on the revenue side before I jump into the expense? None? Okay. On the operating side, utilities, we've already pretty much talked about. We went up roughly 10 grand on utilities. A big chunk of that was elevated with the electricity. Electricity, we went up roughly 3,100. Telephone, we went up roughly 2,000. Water usage about 1,000. Sewer, 1,000. Cable TV, we have a new contract with cable TV. I hope you guys are enjoying a better picture these days. Now, do we have a hiccup every now and then? Yep, we do. It's still not 100% a surety of that new technology we got. I know Ed from time to time will get a disgruntled owner, and rightfully so. Well, hey, my picture looks terrible, but I can assure you, I don't know if there's anybody in here now would say this picture doesn't look better than it looked 2 years ago. We have HD signal, okay? We got fiber optic cable, okay? We didn't have before. So those costs are associated with the cable TV as well as the internet. Now, I know we still on occasion have some problems on the internet-wise on occasion. I'm not sure but I can assure you staff is looking at that on a case basis to see where we may have an issue in a specific unit somewhere. But I think overall, our internet system is far better than what we had before. Next big ticket item, administrative and general. We reduced our 2021 budget by 37 grand. Wow, Ron, what happened there? Well, what happened there was with owners that are delinquent in their maintenance fees, we do on occasion, where we think it's in the best business interest of the association, we foreclose. We want, especially these weeks that are weeks that could easily be quickly resold, okay? So we do foreclose. On a case basis, we may go after and foreclose on them. And then when we get them, we turn around and resell them to a maintenance fee paying person, which helps all of us, right? So in this instance, last year, we had $40,000, not just all foreclosure, but we had like 28,000 for foreclosure, and then we had another 12,000 for miscellaneous legal costs that we have from time to time. So that's the big thing. The big part of that 37 grand is we have a small $4,000 in there roughly this time for foreclosures, just very minor. And that'll be in the case of where there's a week or two or something out there, or 3 or 4 that, hey, they're not going to pay the maintenance fee. We've tried everything. We try to work out a payment plan. They won't take us up on it. They just flat are not going to pay maintenance fees anymore, and it's a week that we know that we can resell. Then rather than let it sit there and not get maintenance fee, we repossess, or we foreclose, foreclose. We get that week back, and we get that there and sell it, and we get a new maintenance fee paying person in place. Payroll and wages, they're pretty much associated with some of the housekeeping and the salaries side of the house. Leases, contracts are 4,000 plus. Leases and contracts, 4,000. That's a relatively minor number. We'll jump down to unit refurb, 18,000 savings versus what we budgeted for 2020. So our 2021 budget is going to be less. Now, part of that reduction was for new doors. If you noticed in your 2020 budget, we had a line item in there for doors that was like 27,000, I believe, somewhere in that range in. And if you remember the old Luan doors that we used to have, they were, they've been here since day one, which is 1982, right? And so they really looked bad. They were splintered, just very unattractive. So we're replacing all the doors, and we have replaced all the doors by now, right, Ed? We've got those in place with new hardware on them. But what's happened is in the 2020 budget, we had that in the operation budget, okay? Which is what we're talking about here, operation budget. We moved the doors to the CRF, the capital reserve fund, because it's really a capital reserve function, okay? So we were able to take the cost for those doors out of your budget for 2021, and they're over in the CRF fund, the capital reserve fund, okay? Which is being paid over the 30-year period by your $215,000. That's part of the overall maintenance fee revenue we get. So the essence of it, as Kenny said, the bottom line with regards to 2020 versus 2021, as you can see, the net operating expenses are $2,038,000 for 2021 and $2,070,000 for a total of $31,000 and some change savings versus what the 2020 budget was. So the end of it, the overall, your maintenance fees for 2021 for one bedroom are $624.36, and for the three bedroom is $791.37, which is a 1.9% increase. Prior to that, last year it was like 2.9 or 3.1, something like that for 2020 increase over 2019. So we as a board have, like I said, a very conservative look and approach. And if October and November and December are any indication of what's to come, then we're really going to rebound better than we thought revenue-wise for 2021, which means we'll have excess revenue that we will be able to reuse in some other area. And what we do with all our excess revenue each year, like Kenny said, the 73 grand we have here for 2020, the actuals estimated forecast versus the budget, that's 73 grand at the end of this year. We will move that over to your capital reserve account. So those funds will be added to, in this instance, to the $215,000 as part of your maintenance fee to begin with. And we'll have that be extra money that we can always use. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. If you would step up to the mic here, sir.
The capital reserve study covers, as you say, the whole 30 years or whatever. Can you tell me if the capital reserve study is fully funded, or to what extent, what percentage is the capital reserve funded so far by this couple $100,000 each year?
Good question, sir. Currently, we have, at the end of this year, into January, we'll have about $1,100,000 actual liquid money you put your hands on, okay? But the rest of it is, if you look at the 30-year plan, we, like HVACs, we replace like eight units per year, I think, something like that. And so that's projected out over the year. So some of that money we don't need right now, but this $215,000 every year we're putting in there is going to take care of those out year. The $1,000,001 that we'll have January, okay? Well, I think it's right now, it's like $900,000 right at this very moment, right at $900,000. That's earmarked for future use, It's not earmarked for 2020, okay?
Understand that. My
Oh, I'm sorry.
question, though, is the capital reserve study shows how much this year and then next year and the following years. That's what the capital reserve study shows, how much we should have because we're consuming throughout the year. As to that million that you say we have in the capital reserve, how does that compare to what the capital reserve study shows we should have any given year? Is it fully funded or not?
If I understand you right, if the 900, like this year, we have like 114 grand in it for 2021 budget that we're going to spend out of this total package of $1.1 million.
I think what he's saying is, if
We should have now.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, okay, I'm with you now. I was just assuming you were trying to get a grasp of what funds are there versus the overall 6.5 million.
No, just to
Yeah,
what
you take
extent,
off the million off the 6.5 and we're 4,500,000.
to what extent is the capital reserve funded? Is it fully funded? Usually not.
so what you're saying is if we continued at 200,000, how short would we be at the end of 30,000?
30 years?
Not exactly.
Let me try to explain it different. I'm having a little problem
I
grasping.
think it's a simple question in financial terms. To what extent is the capital reserve study, which tells us how much we should have in the capital reserve this year, how fully is it funded?
Oh, it's 100% funded for this year.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, sir. That's what the roughly $1 million that we have right now, that's money everything is taken care of through 2020. And this is money that's been accumulating for the 200 grand we've been putting up every year, right? And so as we move forward into next year, next year, some of this $1 million we have now will be used for those ensuing years. And then it'll be supplemented by the additional 215,000 every year that to replace the money that's being used. Like for 2021, we have $114,000 earmarked for 2021. We're going to take in $215,000. Okay, so you got 85, you got $105,000 roughly, okay, thereabouts, of funds that will not be used that we'll have collected. So this $1 million will increase by another 85,000, which will be $1.1 million. And it'll go forward like that on each ensuing year. Well, yeah, the reason we went from 200 to 215, as I indicated earlier, was the HVAC problem, basically. We looked out there and we saw, based on the forecast we saw currently for take care of an HVAC problem, we were going to fall like $300,000 short over the 30-year period. It was closer to 400,000, excuse me, okay? And so having said that, we said, hey, we don't want to wait 10 years or 15 years to try to play catch-up, because something else may raise its head as well. We need to stay tuned in with what the 30-year plan looks like as best we can. We throw a 2% escalation in there on every year. 2%, and that's the national average that they use, 2%, okay? So hopefully I've answered your question finally, and I apologize, I just didn't understand initially, but yeah, what we did for 2020 and 2021, that was fully funded, and we have $1 million left over thereabouts. Anything further, sir? Yes, sir.
Okay, just to follow up on that question. How are we investing that 900,000?
Yeah.
And are we making money on that? And we'd like to know a little bit about that.
Yes, good question, sir. Yeah, our management agent, they handle all our funds through bankings, money markets, et cetera, to get the best bang for the buck, okay? Obviously, we have to hold a certain amount to cover operations for the year. Obviously, you can't just put it all in, because you could ensue some penalties if you take money out on certain market we have. But yes, we're constantly in touch and talking with as a matter of fact, the management company always coming back to us and giving us updates with regards to, hey, we need to do this or we need to do that. But yes, sir, you can be assured that our management company on behalf of all of us is managing those funds. Good question, sir. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, can we get at the beginning of next year a copy of what was actually spent I don't know about others, but I've been a little bit confused because I've been trying to follow it on my sheet, and you are giving a much more detailed when you talk. So is it possible for the members to just receive, possibly in whenever we get the next newsletter or something, a copy of what was actually spent? Not what was budgeted, but maybe what was budgeted and what was actually spent.
Yes, ma'am. We're required by the state statutes, okay, to advise and keep at least once a year with regards to the budget and expenditures. And that's what this middle column right here is forecast. That forecast is taking what happened through October, and we projected what's going to happen for November, December. Okay? That's what we just looked at roughly 10 days ago. Okay? So this is really giving you a pretty realistic, this is what the expenditures are going to be for 2020 at middle column forecast. Okay? Does that help you? Yeah, I'm just trying to convey that the 2020 forecast column, they are your actual expenditures plus 2 months of projections, November, December. And when we do the 2-month projection based on what happened last year and other things, that data that we have in hand that will give us a realistic projection. So you can pretty much be assured the $1,945,000 total operating expenses, you see that, it's going to be very close to that number, very close. And that's why we hand this out at the HOA meetings every year, because we are required to give you a summary like we're doing here. And if you have other questions, whether it be you, ma'am, or someone else, please, as I said early on, shoot us an email and we will get you an answer. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. Sherry? None? Okay. If there are any questions, is this on? If there are any questions coming from live stream and you haven't been able to catch up, do so. Continue to shoot any questions you have to us, or even for that matter, the people here today, and we'll cover it under business, old business or new business. Okay, we'll have that latitude to expand further. If something comes up later that you say, well, I should have asked this, please feel free to do so. Next item on the agenda is the election of directors. For a quick overview in that regard, your bylaws require the board of directors be elected annually, every year. Can't have staggered terms. We have to be elected or considered every year. And so this year, we have 5 board members who have applied for consideration for re-election today. And they were part of your proxy package that you got. And in just a minute, I will open the floor up if there's someone who did not meet the September 1 deadline. There's a policy in place that's been published regarding what the process is for elections. And so anyone interested, we send in our newsletter in March of every year. We tell what the parameters are, and if you're interested in being considered for a directorship, then please submit your candidate's application. And it must be done by September the 1st. And if you don't meet the September 1st deadline, just like all of us, we had to resubmit by September 1st. If you don't meet it, then at the annual meeting today, we will open the floor up and you can place your name in nomination if you so desire, if you didn't make that September 1 deadline, but you're still interested in being considered, okay? So having said that, the floor is hereby opened for nominations for director. Are there any nominations to be added to the list of 5 directors being considered from the floor? Seeing none, is there a motion we close the floor for nominations, please? A motion that we close the floor for nominations. Yes, sir? You got your name again, sir? You got that? Okay, second, please. Patty, okay, Patty, second, okay. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, okay, that carries. Having said that, then we have 5 candidates for re-election here. for 5 positions. So the chair would entertain a motion, if the so desire, to elect the 5 candidates for the ensuing year as board of directors. Is there a motion to that effect? So moved. Again, sir? Second, somebody, please. Okay, you got that?
Who seconded? Okay, Mr. Weeks.
Okay, any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor of electing the current nominees for director for 2021, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing number? The motion's carried, and the board, as you see it today, is re-elected. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank each and every one of you, as well as the live stream who sent in their preferred ballot selections as well through their proxies. We appreciate y'all's time. We appreciate y'all showing the confidence in us going forward to represent you in 2021. We thank you very much. Yeah. Just for general information, I will provide to you that we put an article in the newsletter back in March. Mel Dunavant, who was on the board of directors at the last HOA, Mel Dunavant was reelected for board of directors, along with the other 4 that were here, and the other 3. And Mel, for medical reasons, approximately 2 to 3 weeks later, had to resign. And so in his absence, the board considered and chose to fill the remaining term of Mel with Joe Ferrantes here, to fill his vacancy shortly after being reelected. So obviously, Joe has done a great job for us this year. We look forward to Joe, as well as Kenny, this will be his 2nd year on the board. And Karen's been here 2 or 3 years. And then you got some of us older guys that probably need to be kicked to the curb, but we're still here. But anyway, I did want to pass that on to you, that Mel Dunavant intended to serve, but was unable to shortly after being reelected. Okay.
Hey, Joe, just let me add that when we brought Joe on, it was an arbitrary bring on. He had put his name in the hat last year for one of the open positions, did not get it, but then was then brought on after that. So,
Yeah, good point, Kenny. Just for general information, when a board member has to leave for whatever reason during their term, then the current board typically will go back and look at those people who put their names up previously and were interested. Obviously, you want someone who's interested to be considered, and that's what we did with Joe, because he put his name up last year, and he was a very viable candidate, and obviously you can only have 5. We could have had 6. Joe would have been on there, I can assure you. But nonetheless, that's how the process works. Okay, unfinished business. From a member's perspective, is there any unfinished business you want to bring up? Anything coming in?
Look at this,
Just some comments, thanking the staff, that's it.
I'm sorry.
There's just some comments, thanking the staff, that's
Oh,
all.
okay. She's saying that the live stream, we're getting compliments in about the staff stepping up on the cleaning. Okay, there are 4 items I'd like to bring up since there's none coming from the floor. I've already covered the COVID-19 aspect of it and the staff. The new internet thing, I've actually already covered that as well. We know that was definitely needed, internet, telephone, and cable TV. We knew those were, and we spent about $105,000 on those upgrades, okay, $105,000. No questions from Streamline. No other unfinished business, hearing none?
I'd like for,
Mr. Graham.
I'd like for the board to review this after you and I approve this. I'd like for us to review it after you and I obviously vote and approved it, and it's got a lot of flaws in it, and it makes our friend Monty, his task real hard on what he's trying to do. We
you agree?
I think what he's saying is to change the policy on maintenance,
Yeah, okay.
On the progress, on payments,
to review
Yeah.
and make necessary changes. I think
yeah,
that's what he's saying.
I'm sorry that I was a party to this because it's wrong. And it's all you had to go on, and I'd like for you and I to sit down or something and get this straightened out before we make a final decision.
What Mr. Graham is alluding to here, we have a board of directors meeting prior to the HOA meeting. We had that early this morning. And obviously, one of the subject matters came up with a possible payment plan for owners who may have financial difficulty in meeting the 31 January deadline. Maybe it's a unusual financial crunch or something, and they'd like maybe to see if we could set up a payment plan for them up until the point of time they have occupancy into their unit. And so those discussions are underway. We got a new management company, and I'll get into that in a few minutes, that we're going to be looking at this. The board agreed, the consensus of the board was we were going to look at what we could do for a payment plan. We were going to look at our payment plan policy and update it as we periodically do to make sure that everything is kosher. So basically, if I'm not misunderstanding you, Mr. Graham, that's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And we have that to go forward with in January. We're going to be looking at this potential payment plan with regards to our payment plan policy and implement it where we can. Yes, sir.
Question about the termination provision, is that the appropriate time or not?
Sir, yeah, this, right now, if you step to the mic, absolutely.
If I understand it correctly, last year we were told that North Carolina requires a vote to decide whether not to continue the condominium. And it would take a 60% vote to discontinue the condominium. It was my understanding from some time back that our covenants require us at some time to hold a vote to continue the condominium, in which case it would cease, which would be pretty terrible. Can you tell me whether we're working under both North Carolina for one date and our own covenants for another date, and what is going on?
Yes, sir. Good question. Back in the March newsletter, back in January, we consummated through our attorney revision to our termination clause, which is in your bylaws. Before that amendment to the termination clause.
Excuse me. I'm not talking about bylaws. I'm talking about our covenants, which can't be changed except in extreme circumstances. It's my understanding that our covenants require a vote at some time. It may even have passed, for all I know, as to whether to continue the condominium or not. Am I correct, or am I in error that our covenants, not our bylaws, but our covenants have a provision?
Well, for clarity, we are governed by what we call our governing documents, which include the bylaws. They're all one document, basically. There's two parts to it, but ultimately we have to adhere to those two parts, okay? The declaration is called the declaration, okay? The declaration is part of our, what we have to live by, what the board has to make sure we live by. And the bylaws, with regard to the bylaws, taking the bylaws, take care of some of the other departments, the board, the records, gets some. Part of your declaration, the termination part, that was in there when the developer first started this back in 1982, March of 1982. I'm sorry?
Not in the bylaws section, but in the covenant.
Correct, that's correct, yes, sir. That's correct. But I just want to be clear, they're really intertwined, they're called our documents, really. Well, section of it, but yet the declaration itself talks to the termination. So the termination clause, as we advised everybody at the last HOA meeting, was coming up in 2022, January of 2022. We were required by our declaration to hold a meeting for the ownership in total to vote on whether we wanted to continue as a timeshare entity or do we want to go tenants in common? Which would do away with timeshare entity, and then, just as an example, if you're in unit 19 penthouse, then all of a sudden, and I own 1 week in there, all of a sudden now, 19 penthouse, there's 52 people that own that unit.
Yes, and my question is, in our covenants requirement, is it a vote to continue or is it a vote to discontinue? In which case, if the vote doesn't pass, something automatically happens.
Correct. And what we did in January, we got with the attorney at his advice and research, and it was determined that before we amended the termination clause in January, and the couple of months preceding January 1, 2022, we would have to hold a meeting. At that time, the ownership would determine whether or not we want to continue or not in a timeshare condominium aspect, okay? And so at that time, majority, you needed a majority to continue timeshare ownership instead of tenants in common. The revision that was recommended by the attorney and which the board approved, we flipped that, and now it's 60% to discontinue timeshare ownership. The onus is on the people that do not want to continue rather than putting the onus on the people that want to continue. And one of the primary reasons for that is we never can muster 50% of the association to agree on anything. And so why should the owners of the association be subjected to something you can't raise enough votes on, and then all of a sudden you become tenants in common? So at the direction of the recommendation of the attorney, we now 60% will have this meeting, but as part of the revision, instead of 2022, it is now 2062. We added 40 years to it. So it's status quo for this association till 2062.
Do I understand that the board revised the covenants? I thought the covenants could not be revised except by the members.
Good question, sir. In this instance, the state legislature passed legislation that allowed the board, as long as you didn't take out the termination clause and gave the ownership the opportunity, we could, as a board, majority of the board, make a revision to it. As long as you didn't take away the aspect of it that the still timeshare-wise will be determined. And that's why we responded through the attorney's recommendation.
So a North Carolina law overtook the requirements of our covenants.
Well, you say overtook. The covenants were approved by the state statutes initially back in 1982 when the developer decided that he or she wanted to develop this property. They have to go to the state and get approval.
That goes without saying.
Yeah.
Covenants are amongst us. Covenants do not involve state government or city government or anyone else. Covenant in itself, a long old biblical term, covenants is something that we agreed amongst ourselves. And it was my understanding that the covenants ordinarily would not be changed except by those who were covenanting. But as I understand it, you say the North Carolina law has superseded the idea of covenant. But thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And before we put a change, that change has not been effective with regards right now. If this ownership wanted to go further change the termination clause, okay, under the declaration, you use covenants under the declaration. The body right here, right now, well, aside from the board, if you guys decided you wanted to change the termination clause, you could do so, but you have to have 75% approval in the affirmative to do that, okay? That clause is still there in terms of the declaration. All the state statute change did, it recognized that when they put this requirement that you hold a meeting at a certain date, recognizing that proxies and votes are very difficult to come by. I mean, we've come to the association over the years trying to change a few documents, a few clauses in the bylaws, et cetera. Just as an example, one, being able to change the venue of this meeting, maybe take it to Virginia, let's say, for every other year or whatever. We found that roughly, back the last study, which has been quite a while ago, 60+% of the ownership lived in Virginia. That's probably changed by now, I'm sure, but we don't even have the latitude of changing, not that that's that important, but other issues along with it, with regards to staggering terms for board of directors. In my opinion, the way this was written, it was poorly written back in the end of 1982. The developer wrote this and got it approved by the state. Okay, well, we have to be reelected every year. Our sister organization, OBB2, they have staggered terms for 3 years. So this whole board, if the membership so desired, could wipe out this board in 1 year. Well, what continuity do you have there? You don't have any. And so there's one reason we came back and wanted to change some things. We couldn't get but 47% of the board to even respond, let alone trying to get 75% requirement to change any line item in your declaration. We couldn't, in the affirmative, we couldn't even come close to that. So I think, I'm just guessing here, I think the state legislature recognized that the proxy side and the voting side, back when it was first written, is far less amenable to, in terms of getting results from things that just make common sense, in some cases anyway. I hope I've helped you in that regard. But the 75% is still there. We can't change a line item in our declaration without everybody agreeing in the affirmative 75%, except for the state legislature changed and made a revision available to board of directors with a termination clause, just the termination clause only. It's an isolated incident that the state legislature keyed on and said, yep, board, you can change some aspects of your termination clause as long as you don't take away the opportunity for the board, for the membership to make a change to it in and of themselves. I hope that's been helpful. Any other questions? Hearing none, let's move on to new business. At this time, it's a kind of a bittersweet moment here for all of us. As you saw in the October newsletter, our general manager, Mr. Stamey, sitting over there, his better half is not here today, the one that really drives the wagon. She's not with us today, but nonetheless, Ed, after 23 years with the association, the last 13 as our general manager, has decided to retire, effective the end of this year. And so with that being said, what I'd like to do, I'd like to read to you the announcement that was in the newsletter. And then we have a couple other presentations we'd like to make to Ed. Ed Stamey, general manager, retires. Ed Stamey, general manager for OBBC 1 and 2 associations, has announced he is retiring at the end of this year. Ed has been employed by the associations since January 1998 and will have completed 23 years of service upon retirement at the end of 2020. Ed has been general manager of the resort for the past 13 years, having been selected for the top position in 2008. The tremendous leadership and communication qualities and skills Ed exemplifies have been instrumental in both associations' success in providing the owners with both quality service and a well-maintained resort. Ed has continuously stressed to his staff the importance of ensuring that each owner, guest, receives the best attention and service available to better ensure their vacation is an enjoyable and memorable one, as is evidenced by the marked increase in very favorable comments from owners and guests. Ed has been a team leader since first joining the Beach Club family. He has continuously emphasized the importance of leadership and responsibilities that go with it, and that staff members' actions or lack thereof reflect on the Beach Club team as a whole. He has consistently emphasized to his staff, whether as a supervisor or a subordinate, the importance of accountability and seeing each task completed correctly and professionally. Ed has a well-organized sense of being able to identify and simplify various processes to better ensure efficiency and productivity in his staff. His decision-making and problem-solving capabilities have been instrumental in the cost savings of the association. At the end of the day, it has stated many times that a general manager is only as good as the people that work for him. And to that, Ed Stamey says, I have a great staff. We'll miss Ed as he retires, but we recognize retirement is one of everyone's ultimate goals. So congratulations, Ed Stamey, on a job well done. We wish you and your very supportive wife, Pat, the very best in long and healthy retirement life and extra joy and happiness that the retirement can bring. Board of Directors, OBB staff, management, and owners. Ed, if you step up here. We'd like to present to Ed a plaque here commemorating his service. Outer Banks Beach Club presented to Ed Stamey in recognition of 23 years of loyal service. Outer Banks Beach Club Associations 1 and 2, January 1998 and December 2020. I'm gonna shake your hand, Ed. And along with that, we have a little $2,500 retirement bonus. Ed, if you'd like to say a few words.
All right, we're gonna get rid of this mask right off the bat here. I'll tell you the secret to my success is that group sitting right over there. Those guys make me look good. And I'm really proud of all of them. They're like my children almost, you know. I mean, when I leave here, it's like leaving my family, and it's tough. And I've enjoyed it, and it's time for me to move on and let some of these younger people move up. Some of them younger, some of them not so much. But nevertheless, they're going to do a great job for you. I have a lot of confidence in them, worked with all of them for a long time. Jimmy Calvert's not here today, and he's a guy that trained all these people this summer to clean these units. So I'm sorry he's not with us. But anyway, you got a great staff, and I've enjoyed it, and it's time for me to move on. It really is. I'll be back, but not to stay probably. But thanks again. I appreciate all your support, and especially the board of directors who have really, especially Mr. Fowler, that has really helped me through the years. It's just, I mean, can't say enough about how much I appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ed. We're definitely, we're going to miss you. There's no question about it. Ed took over from Alma Forbes, as we all recall. She was here 13 years ago, and so Ed's passing the baton on to somebody, right? And of course, that's somebody. The joint boards have interviewed candidates and have come to the determination we want to promote from within. And so, in that regard, the joint boards have selected a gentleman who's been with us for 7 years in the maintenance department. He comes to us from Sears and Walmart of 31 plus years. He's done a great job. His background has been in large part maintenance, so he's spot on that regard, and he's got some managerial skills as well with the positions he held with Sears as well as Walmart, and obviously the managerial duties he had here under Ed, and of course under Jim as well. So with that having said, we'd like to announce to you today that our new general manager, effective January 1st, is Ron Galata. Ron, come on up. Congratulations.
Hello, I'm Ron, and first of all, I want to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to be the new GM of the Beach Club. I'll do my very best at the position to try to fill Ed's shoes over there, but he does have big feet. But I'll do my very best to keep it, running as smooth as possible and trouble-free. Or like Ed said, our staff is second to none, and I'm really looking forward to working with them in more detail along with the new maintenance management, company. And I'm just really thrilled to take on this opportunity. And now I'm going to go into some of the projects that we're going to be looking at for 2021 that we're going to have on the ongoing things. First of all, is keeping the staff and the resort COVID-free and doing everything we can and buying any kind of sanitizer or masks and keep on going with the standardized procedures to keep everybody healthy. And we'll be replacing, and then we'll go on to the next one, we'll be replacing carpet in buildings 10, 15, 16, 17 this coming year. And we'll also be adding ceiling fans in the bedrooms of those units, 10, 15, 16, and 17. We'll be painting the exterior of the buildings 14, 18, 19, 20 this year. And our paint crew will be continuing on working on eliminating some of the old popcorn ceilings in the units and redoing them and knock down as we can get the units available. And we'll continue on with the LED light replacement inside and outside the units and all over the property. We're replacing living room furniture and also in 10, 15, 16, 17 this year. And appliances as needed. And our HVAC crew will be replacing inside and outside units as needed and keep everything working, up to par. And that's pretty much it for big projects for the Beach Club this year. I mean, we'll be doing our little stuff, but I want to thank the board again for giving me the opportunity to represent them and the Beach Club as the general manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. We look forward to working with you as always. I know we got some big shoes to fill, but we know you can do it. I'd like to just pick up on a comment Ed made a second ago. He was saying, in particular, I'd like to thank me. Well, I just chair the board. That's all I do. It's a board effort, okay? Everything we do is a board effort. So really, if there's any accolades, et cetera, that's really for the board, it's not for me, it's for the board. Because we have a great board here. We've been together for a year with the current board. I think we have a fairly conservative philosophy, if you will, and that we work well together. So we're looking forward for the year to come and the years after that. Okay, the next item on the new business, as I briefly alluded to a second ago, currently we're with Capital Vacations is our current management agent. Give you a quick short history of it. Back in 2002, we went from Equivest to SPM. And we were with SPM for 16 years. At that time, NHG, which is now Capital Vacations, absorbed SPM and Public Defender, which was another timeshare management company, okay? And so SPM became under the banner of NHG and ultimately Capital Vacations, and then Capital Vacations rebranded and called it Capital Vacations, and SPM's name went away totally, as well as Public Defender, okay? And so it's totally Capital Vacations. And so as we do as we come close to the end of every management agreement, for which this was a 2-year management agreement we had in place that we executed in 2018. As we always do, we look at, well, is this what we want going forward, or do we want to look elsewhere, or we just want to see what's out there to make a determination of whether or not we want to continue with the current management agent or not. And the board went through a lengthy process. The joint boards, thank goodness, joint boards, I said, because OB1 and 2 are separate entities altogether. We went, interviewed various companies, and we came to the conclusion after reviewing all of them, of which Capital Vacations was one of the finalists in the consideration. We chose RMCG, Resort Management Consulting Group, out of Hilton Head, no, excuse me, Myrtle Beach, North Carolina, same place Capital Vacations is. Now, quick history of that is up until 2018, when SPM still had their name out there, right? That staff that was still there with SPM, obviously was absorbed into capital vacations. And during that time frame, some people left capital vacations and decided, for whatever reason, to do whatever. Well, two of them decided to start their own company. Mr. McCall and Mr. Michael Schreibman, who were with SPM for years and years, and we were very familiar with them because they were with us for, 16 plus years, and they transitioned us from Capilvest, the previous management company. And so that was one of the ingredients that the joint boards considered, along with some others, and that we chose this new management company, which has been in existence roughly 2+ years, okay, to go with them. So by going to a new management company, the fact that they are new is really a misnomer, because the staff that they have will be, in fact, some of the staff we had back when we had SPM. Okay, we will maintain the current staff that we have today. Nothing's going to change in that regard. All the employees currently with us will remain as employees unless they so decide to go elsewhere, which would be their choosing, but I'd be surprised. We're just, while we appreciate what Capital Vacations has done for us over the last 2+ years when they absorbed SPM, but the ultimate decision by joint boards was we wanted to go with which I'll call RMCG. So January 1, we will be with RMCG. You will be receiving communications shortly, right after the first of the year, regarding future maintenance fee payments, etc. Correspondence, who you write to, those types of things, all that will be communicated to you shortly after the first of the year. It was a decision that we didn't want to get into trying to complicate things with ongoing maintenance fees being paid now up through January 31st, that we didn't want to give any confusion. Well, do I send the payment here or do I send it there? We didn't want to interrupt that. And so at the recommendation of the management company, who has transitions 3 or 4 other associations into their management agent portfolio. That's the reason we haven't come out sooner, other than just an announcement that we're making here today. So we look forward. We appreciate what Capital Vacations has done for us in the past. We wish them the best of success in their management company, in which we know they'll do well. And we're looking forward to reuniting with Mr. McCall, Mr. Schreibman, and the staff that we've had in the past and somewhat had in the past with SPM before. And we, as I said, will keep you attuned to any and all changes coming up once we get into January, thereabouts. Any questions regarding new business, what we've just discussed, or something unique that you couldn't think of earlier that you'd like to bring up? Yes, ma'am.
This is just a comment on the new organization that you have. We just happen to have been one of those that were absorbed from them also, that they just joined them. And I want to tell those who are going to be working in the field of working with the people, you are going to have a marvelous person who not only is willing to work with you, but she will be getting out there to see that the work is being done correct. So I just want to pass that on and say amen, that they have done a wonderful job with the organization the timeshare that we belong to.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any other new business? Up here, audience? Sherry from live stream? No questions? Oh, okay. All right, this time then we would like to turn it over to Mr. Graham here, who is going to oversee the door prize drawings. Okay, we don't have any new Cadillacs or anything like that to pass out, but we do have a few things that are somewhat of the usual we've done. A couple of units that we'll pass out as well, but I can't say enough for everybody taking the time to show up here today, recognizing the numbers are not what we normally see due to the pandemic, obviously, but it really shows the obvious business interest you have in your association, in your associations. There's no question about that. So is somebody going to give Wendell some help here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, I will now turn it over to Mr. Graham.
You need a year, or?
Do you want to read what we're going to give out?
It looks like I get this job every year, and for,
You're good at it.
for reasons unclear to me. But we'll start off with a wind chime, and you'll do the drawing, I hope. I'll call them the last, you got, oh, where are they?
Okay, are you going to pick?
Oh,
All
okay.
right, so we're going to call the last three numbers on your ticket, okay?
And I might add, we have at the end 2 weeks. And they are nice weeks, but you will be required at some point in time to pay maintenance fees on it. If you have any thoughts before you put your name on that deed, you give it a good thought. But they're good weeks, because I had one at one time, and they probably are the best weeks of the year. One's a 3-bedroom, and I'll tell you what they're in a minute. All right, give me a number.
What's the gift first?
Oh, the first gift is a wind chime, and I haven't a clue what the hell it is. 734137.
137, last three numbers.
It's
There it
Chuck.
sits back there.
Chuck. All right, so we're going to put it back in for the week. Oh, let's figure it. We got to put it back in.
Oh, gotta put,
You don't put it until after.
you don't put it in for these.
Get number 6, yeah. Yeah, we got to make sure we put it back.
All right, the 7 one is also a wind chime, which I know what it is. Seven, 3, 4, 1, 5, 2.
Ooh. It's a win.
And you can guess what this is. It's another wind chime. Seven 34-166.
Last three numbers, Mr. Graham.
Last three numbers. Last three.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't
Yeah, the last three. Joanne.
read the whole thing,
Oh,
huh?
not the whole thing, just the last three numbers.
166. Now, what's that for?
Oh, wind time.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now we have a visor now, and I haven't a clue what it is.
Last three numbers.
144. Is that me by any chance? Hey,
Is that you? Yeah, it's Mr. Graham.
that's me. And the second one is another visor, and the number is 165. Bingo.
Mr. Weeks.
And what is that? That was a,
A visor, no, it's a beach.
all right, the next one is a beach lamp. And again, I have no clue what it is. 163.
All right, so we gotta put it all back. It's the week.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll put them all,
Oh, bring it to me.
okay.
Winners back into hats for the two big ones, okay? So everybody gets a shot at the two bigger ones.
This is item 7. It's 1 week. a one-bedroom on October 12th through 29.
Okay, so it's a 1 week, it's a 1 week, one bedroom, you're gonna contact April. And, it's the off season, so you could book it from October the 12th through April the 29th. Okay, so it's off season week. All right, ready, Mr. Graham? Gotta make sure we got it.
I've been ready.
Oh, you've been ready. Okay, well, I'm coming. All right, I mixed them really good so we can do it. Okay, call it. My screen up.
148.
Woo! Now we can take it out, yeah. All right, so this is for the last one. This is the grand prize. So it's for a 1 week, 3-bedroom at the beach club. Same date, October the 12th through the April the 29th. And you're gonna contact April on your certificate to book it, okay? Ready?
What location is this?
At the beach club.
I know, but one bedroom, three.
3-bedroom, 1 week.
What, no, what unit is it?
We gotta find one.
Oh, you gotta find
Yeah.
one.
It's 137.
Hey, all I can say is beware. 137.
Oh! And that's it. We're done, Mr. Graham. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Graham. So you partook in some of those gifts yourself. I have one question that came up from an owner with regards to umbrella chair locations on the beach. For those who are here, whether it be renting or own or whatever, umbrella services are provided by a separate entity, which we have no part of really. We have an agreement with them, and I'll get into that. But they typically set up umbrellas from May, Memorial Day through Labor Day. And they have extended it, I think, maybe a little bit on either end, depending on the weather, et cetera. But nonetheless, we have an agreement with this company only to the effect that we will allow them to store the umbrellas on our property at nighttime if they provide our owners a service of umbrellas and chairs. That's the extent of it. They pay us for any and all costs to store it on the property. We had to meet certain camera requirements, the town requirements because of the dunes and all that good stuff. And you may have noticed on your boardwalk, on the two boardwalks, on the north boardwalk going to the beach, there's a side on the left where they'll stack chairs and put covers in them. And then the one coming up the middle on the same side, the north side, they'll stack up chairs. And they will store those at night, and they're required to take them down within 2 weeks at the conclusion of the season. In other words, they can't leave them on the property for 24/7. With regards to the question is, why does the umbrella service take up the whole beach? We go down to the beach, and we can't put down a blanket or chairs because they've already lined up. And so they're taking all supposedly the good spots, if you will. We have no control over that. It's a first come, first served for everybody, including the company. Okay? We have no direction or involvement whatsoever in the cost to the ownership, the location, the time of day they're taking up and taking down, or someone sitting in your chair if you come down, and we have no input to that whatsoever. Our only agreement is we have a service to the owners because there is no other service on the beach, really. A company cannot come down and set up on the beach umbrellas and chairs. The entity that fronts that property can use their staff or subcontract it out in some fashion. Like you could say we're subcontracting because we're allowing them to store, because from a logistics standpoint, they wouldn't have any way. They'd have to take the chairs and load them up on trucks, take them home and come back every day. So the fact that we are able to use this company's service is is really beneficial. We've had it for some time. If you recall, LBS had this, had an agreement with the town of Kill Devil Hills where they did the lifeguard service as well as they put up the chairs and took them down. And they had a falling out a number of years ago. And so we were 2 years without umbrella service. And we tried on our own to get hire staff to go down and put the umbrellas up and take them down. Well, that just didn't work out. The youth today have other ideas in mind. That's fine. I understand that. But unfortunately, you had to go across the street to a rental company and rent something and take it down by yourself. Or they would, for a fee, bring it down, set it up, and take it back for you each day. But the ownership, we felt like the ownership should have that service available. You can choose it or not choose it. As to where you put up your chair or blanket, we have no control over. If you want to be right down there on the front of the ocean, hey, go down and get on the front of the ocean. That's your choice. But first come, first serve. They cannot leave them set up overnight. You have to take them totally off the beach behind the dune line. So hopefully I've answered the lady's question here in that regard. So if you have any issues regarding the service you're getting or lack thereof, the cost, the location, the time of day, they took them down because there's a storm coming and you think, well, there's not a storm coming. That's their liability decision that they make as a business. So we have no involvement whatsoever, other than we will allow them to store them on our property at their total liability. So hopefully I've answered that.
Okay, some of our owners go down and stake themselves out a place they want to be, if they want to put a blanket down before they put the umbrellas up. I mean, first, what time do they put the umbrellas up?
Yeah, that's what basically what you're saying is they first come, first serve. If I'm an owner and I don't want to rent an umbrella, then I'm going to go down earlier than they come down. They usually come down 7:30 or so and start setting up because they have to have them up and ready by 9 o'clock. And they take them down and have to be able to leave the beach by 6 o'clock. So for the rental service. But yeah, you have the latitude as an owner. If you can get down there early enough, pitch it where you like. We just don't have any control over it, none whatsoever. Okay, any other questions? I saw a hand raised here somewhere, ma'am. Well, you and a lot of, and the older people like myself and all, that I tried going across the street for those 2 years and lugging them back and forth. Them days are behind me. Yeah. Anyway, okay, having said that, there's no further questions of any kind. Due to the COVID-19, we will not be having a catering service following this meeting like we normally have. We would love to have it, but logistic-wise, the distance requirements, et cetera, just didn't present itself that we could do it. So we're not going to be able to do that. So having said that, I need a motion to adjourn. Sir, your name? Your last name, sir? Yeah, one, right straight back. Okay. Second, please. Yes, sir. Okay, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you for attending. Have a safe trip back and be safe during this pandemic. Thank you. Is this yours? I think you're